Hello guys, today we are going to be tier ranking every single book that I read in 2024. This was really a mixed bag, so there are going to be some kind of crazy ones in there, but just stick with me and take everything I say, of course, with a pinch of salt. And of course, if you like this video, please do like and subscribe, and do correct me if you feel like I was wrong about any of these book rankings. Okay, so I've just put in all the books that I read this year, and do you know what? I think I'm just going to go in a random order.
Hey guys, so I'm currently here editing this in my jammies, and I realised that I just forgot to press record on the clip of me explaining what the actual tiers were. So let me just do that now. The top book tier we had was literally life-changing. So these are of course like the 6-star books, like the books that rocked my world. Next tier was sensational. So books that were like still even 5 stars, but just like not life-changing, but like they're still perfect. And we have a very underrated tier in my opinion, which is I forgot how good that was. So it's not books that are like forgettable or anything, but it's just you kind of like forget you read them, but when you remember them you're like, oh my god, that was such a good book, like why don't I talk about that more or think about that more. Underneath that we had meh. Like these were just the books that just like they were good, probably would recommend them, but nothing really special. Underneath that we have I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. These are maybe the books that I had high hopes for, or I thought I was gonna like, and they just didn't do it for me. In the last tier we have Burn This. These are almost the books where it's like it's more my fault for reading it than it is even the book's fault, because like I should have DNF'd that but I didn't. Just thought I would explain that before we actually got into the video.
First one I've seen is A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. This is 100% one of those books where I go, I forgot how good that was. It wasn't like life-changing, but it was just so good. I remember absolutely loving it and being like, this is a fantastic book. And it was a 4.5 and I loved every second of it. I consider it one of those books where like nothing happened, but like so much happened for me. Does that make sense? It was 100% a book about readers for readers, and I loved it. Next we're going to go for Holding the Reins by Paisley Hope. Holding the Reins is 100% sensational. I love recommending this series to people. It's like a cowboy romance series. I think it's such a great substitute if you have like withdrawals from Elsie Silver's Chestnut Springs series. So I absolutely loved this one. This was sensational. Okay, next one we have is Hate Mail. Okay, Hate Mail I read in a day. I ate it up. I thought it was so good, but like now when it comes to this list, I'm like, would I put that in I forgot how good that was? I more just forget about it. I feel like it, for that reason, it kind of has to go in meh. And I would recommend it, but it wasn't like, oh my god, I forgot how good that was. I just like forget it ever happened. Let's go for our first life-changing one, and that is obviously Manacled. If you guys watched my last video, you will know. You'll just know. Life-changing. It's a Harry Potter fanfiction. And I understand if you've never read fanfiction or like anything like that, you will be like, oh my god, touch grass please. But the girls who read fanfiction literally get it. So it was literally life-changing. Next let's do Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. Ooh, Wild Eyes is a tough one because it was amazing, but definitely like to me so far the Rose Hill series has not compared to Chestnut Springs. Do I ever think about it? No, honestly I don't ever think about it. I don't know. No, but it's not meh. Like Elsie Silver is not meh. Let's just put it in I forgot how good that was. I never think about it, but like I remember absolutely devouring it and eating it up. Oh, let's go for Mile High. Mile High is literally the definition of not angry, just disappointed. I was very excited for it. I had heard fantastic things about it. Mile High was not for me at all. I really was like, oh, I'm ready for this series. And then when I read Mile High, I was literally like, oh, maybe I won't read this series, but I'm glad I kept going, which you will see soon. Next, let's go for The No-Show. Was probably, I honestly feel like meh is an overstatement. The No-Show was like, ugh, nah, it's probably meh. Because I did read it in like, I think a day and a half, because I was like so confused. I was like, what is going on? If any of you haven't heard of The No-Show, it's basically this one guy is like obviously seeing, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 different girls, like you're getting like these perspectives and they're obviously all seeing the same guy, but like you can't figure out what's going on because he seems like a nice guy. Storyline I actually enjoyed, but I don't know, just like the characters and stuff, I think I just didn't care. But then also I was like nosy, I was like, how does this end? So I did read it fast, but it was like, it was meh. Let's go for Powerful. It's like a novella in between Powerless and Reckless about Peyton's best friend. I can't remember even what her name was. I'm gonna put this a meh because it was like a touching story, but I just didn't care. At that point I really was not invested in the Powerless series, and I was just like, whatever, like I'll just read it, but like I wasn't invested. So I think maybe I wasn't the right audience for this novella. I really enjoy Lauren Roberts' writing. I always find myself underlining everything she writes and stuff. Like, she has some really beautiful quotes. Okay, then I am going to take Strange Sally Diamond, which was a recommendation from my boyfriend's mum. I had never heard of this book in my life. I read it in a day. I loved this book. And this would 100% go in the I forgot how good that was. I never think about it, but then when I remember it, I'm like, oh my god, I loved that. I ate that up. I will say I had so much beef with the ending of this story, but the journey to get there honestly made it worth it for me. Strange Sally Diamond, if you don't know, it's basically about this girl who's just like clearly very, very different. So funny because it is Irish and it's like set in Ireland as well, which just makes this so funny. But like, her dad used to always say to her, like, when I die, just put me out with the bins. Like, I don't want a funeral, put me out with the bins. Sally takes this literally, and when her father passes away, she puts him out with the bins. She puts him in the bin. She's then got the police knocking at her door because like, where is her dad? She kind of can't understand what she's done wrong, but basically this sends her down like a path of finding out so many things about her childhood that is just insane, to be honest, and it's such a good book. Then we have another kind of like crime thriller. This is Therapy. Everyone recommended this to me because they said the plot twist would get me. The plot twist did get me. I wasn't expecting it at all, but I have realised with myself about thrillers, the reason I never rate them high, I just do not think characters in thrillers are written well at all. The only one I could say different about is Strange Sally Diamond. I just don't care about the characters, so like I don't even care when there's a plot twist. Like I don't know what it is, but they're just written so two-dimensional, I think. I never really care, so that would definitely go in Meh. And let's go with one of my new favourite series, and this is the Vancouver Storm series. So the first book I read in this series was Behind the Net, and where would I put this? I feel like I would honestly put this in I Forgot How Good This Was, and then I'd put the second book in the series, The Fake Out, and Sensational, because I loved that. And The Wingman would also be I Forgot How Good That Was. But just the overall series I love, I look forward to. It gives me the same feeling that like the Off Campus series used to give me. It is an ice hockey series. I think you just cannot go wrong with Stephanie Archer's books. Let's do a Frederick Backman one. This is Beartown. I am going to put Beartown in Meh, but like more of a positive meh. Like, it was a great book, but it was just meh. Like, I don't think about it, I don't like reminisce on it. I would recommend it to people, but probably not like aggressively recommend, if that makes sense. Another series that we started this year, I've only read the first book, but Caraval. Caraval was great and I'm excited to continue the series, but the first book itself, like, it's more the series I'm excited to become invested in, but the first book itself I'm not like, wow, like life-changing. I would put this in Meh, but not as negatively as you think. Like, it is like, I'm excited to continue, but like the first book, whatever. Train in the Heart, which is the second book in the Silver Pines series by Paisley Hope. 100% sensational. Loved it as much as Holding the Reins, if not more maybe. Okay, let's go for a Harry Styles fanfiction. We're going with Stall. This is the last one I read. Stall is probably like, I forgot how good that was. Let's talk about the other Harry Styles ones. The one that I talk about all the time and that was literally life-changing, Devil's Due. Literally, where does one get started on Devil's Due? And Devil's Due also is like, if you don't read fanfiction, you'll be like, get help. And also, I need to get a grip. The fact that my only two and literally life-changing right now are fanfictions, like, I do need to reevaluate things. It was only the second one I read. The first one I read was, of course, Duplicity, which is kind of like the most famous Harry Styles fanfiction. Duplicity was 100% sensational, maybe even life-changing in the sense that like it was my first ever Harry Styles fanfiction and I was like, what is this world? Like, what have I just become a part of? This is incredible. I'll never read real books again. But I definitely loved Devil's Due more. Okay, let's go into my first Burn This, and the book that I literally created this tier for, A Court of Sugar and Spice. I get mad just thinking about it. Unfortunately, this book lives rent-free in my brain as much as Manacled does, because I just think that was vile. That was a disgusting, horrible book. Take everything that I'm saying with a pinch of salt, of course, just my opinion, blah blah blah. I hated it. I absolutely despised that book. I literally... Guys, I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm not going to bring that negativity onto this channel. But speaking of Christmas books, let's do the 2 other Christmas books that I read this year. How My Neighbour Stole Christmas. I'm going to be so real. Sensational. I ate that up. It was so funny and so like cute and just... It was everything I wanted. I loved it. I did not expect to love it as much as I did. It gave me the exact vibes of You Deserve Each Other. It's so good. Then we read Snowdon by Catherine Walsh. It was good. I really enjoyed it. But in the end I was like, that was a 3.5 stars. Like, I just didn't care that much. I don't know why. But I would put this in May. I would recommend it to people. It is a nice Christmas book. But like, in comparison to How My Neighbour Stole Christmas, I wasn't fussed. Okay, let's do a little duology that is going to have more books, but I read the first 2 books this year, and that is the Assistant to the Villain series. I don't know if that's the name of the series, but that's the first book. Assistant to the Villain is honestly, oh, is it sensational or is it I forgot how good that was? I feel like Assistant to the Villain was sensational. I loved it. I also read that in a day. It follows a girl who basically, well, it's self-explanatory, she basically gets a job being the assistant to the villain. Like, it's just so like fairy tale-esque. This was so well written and just like so funny, and the romance in it was amazing, like, because she was just such like a little ray of sunshine and he's obviously like the villain. However, Apprentice to the Villain I didn't love as much. I found it really difficult to get into, and not only that, I found it really difficult to like follow along with. Like, I kind of didn't understand what was happening a lot of the time. Like, I don't know if I went too far in between reading Assistant to the Villain and Apprentice to the Villain. I just felt like there was a bit too much going on. I would actually put Apprentice to the Villain and Not Angry, Just Disappointed. It wasn't that bad, but like, I think I was so excited for it and I thought I was going to be like obsessed with it, and I just wasn't. Okay, next we have to talk about are a few rereads. So I reread 3 books in the Addicted/Calloway Sisters series. There's not really much to say here other than these books are all sensational. These books were life-changing the first time I read them, but like, if we're talking about reading these this year, they're not like life-changing in the way that the other books were, because these were rereads. Like, these are comfort books now. Life has already been changed since reading them, so I will just put them in sensational. Then I'm going to take Number 32 by Cassie Stewart. So this was a book that was very kindly sent to me by the author and is nothing like the typical type of book I would read. It was very much out my comfort zone and I wasn't sure if I was going to love it. I read this in a day. If you're someone who's nosy and like loves to hear like the drama that goes on in like your neighbourhood or where you live, you would eat this up, because it literally is just like family drama and family lore. It was just done so well and I absolutely loved it. So I would definitely put this in I Forgot How Good That Was. Another book we read recently is Lights Out. I've heard a lot about this and so I was like, okay, I'll read it. Like, just I need a silly, easy, dark romance to read. The thing with me is I can only read dark romance if I'm in the mood for it. And I very much was in the mood for that. So when I read this book and I realised it wasn't, some people might be like, what the fuck? But like, it wasn't that dark. There were like dark themes in it, but I don't feel like the romance itself was dark. I felt like it was actually kind of a healthy relationship, which like just wasn't what I was in the mood for apparently. So I would put Lights Out and Not Angry, Just Disappointed. It wasn't a bad book, I just didn't like it. Let's do another literally life-changing book, and that is 100% Morning Star. Morning Star is the 3rd book in the Red Rising series and it was just sensational. It literally was life-changing. I laughed, I cried, I felt everything that you should feel when you're reading a book. So that was literally life-changing. The next book in the series, Iron Gold, was Not Angry, Just Disappointed. Don't get me wrong, it was so nice to like be back in that world, but you could finish the Red Rising series after Morning Star, which is the 3rd book. It kind of wraps up like the initial plot line of the book. You don't need to keep reading, but they did keep writing. And Iron Gold, it didn't make me feel the way that the first 3 books did. Funny Story by Emily Henry, love. Not life-changing, but sensational without a doubt. I think most of Emily Henry's books I would probably put in sensational. I loved it. It was so good. It was so different to anything she's written, I felt like, and I just I just ate it up. And a new author I got into this year that I've been wanting to get into for so long was Abby Jimenez. The first book I read was the Happy Ever After playlist, and I would definitely put that in I forgot how good that was. Like, I never really think about it, but it was incredible. It was such like a good introduction to her books, I think. Then after that I read Just for the Summer. Just for the Summer was everything. It was everything I wanted. It was everything I was looking for, and yeah, I just absolutely loved it. It was definitely sensational without a doubt. Okay, let's get into a new favourite series that this year gave us, and this was of course the Boys of Tommen series. This one is gonna be tea. Binding 13 definitely goes up in sensational. I'm invested, I need to know what's going on, and it was genuinely incredible. However, life's truly were changed. When I finally read Keeping 13, there literally are no words. Like, I can't even explain that. There are no words for how good Keeping 13 was. It was just like, it actually ruined my life. Like, that book alone destroyed my life and then like put me back together. If you have not read the Boys of Tommen series and you love sad books but like the deepest romances ever, like they're so character driven, it's like found family, the friendships, everything about it, so good, but it will break your heart. But once again, I think it's amazing that books can do that. You guys know I give this spiel all the time. Okay, this is where it's tea. Saving 6. I will let the screen recording speak for itself there. I hated Saving 6 and I was so disappointed. You could really put it in not angry, just disappointed, but no, like I hated it. Burn it. I can't say that. People will genuinely sue me. Far too much back and forth for me of Joey and Aoife breaking up, getting back together. Why was Aoife constantly begging this man not to break up with her? Like, that gave me the ick so badly. Joey I loved so much as a brother, hated him as a boyfriend. The two of them just pissed me off, honestly, and that was all the book consisted of. So then Redeeming 6 would go in not angry, just disappointed. I didn't hate it as much and I pushed through because I did want to see kind of how it all wrapped up and stuff, and I'm glad I finished it, I think, but I still like hated every second. But I feel like I can get back in your guys' good books when I talk about the next series, which is of course the Throne of Glass series. This was a huge part of my year and such a fun part of my year reading this for the first time. So the first book I read was Assassin's Blade. Don't know if that's controversial or not. Very glad I did, because it just gave me such a good understanding of the main character going into the rest of the series, and it was so nice going through the series when you like saw little like Easter eggs from Assassin's Blade and like things made sense. I really enjoyed that. So Assassin's Blade I would definitely put in probably like I forgot how good that was. It wasn't like the standout of the series, but it was like, yeah, that was actually really good. Throne of Glass, I actually loved Throne of Glass, but now when I compare it to the rest of the series, I would honestly put Throne of Glass in meh. Crown of Midnight is probably sensational, purely for the ending. Like, Crown of Midnight, I was literally like shook to my core. I literally did not know what to do with myself. Next we have Aid of Fire, which was 100% also sensational. That I think was the first book I gave 5 stars in the series, which upon reflection, no it wasn't, but it was sensational. Queen of Shadows, sensational. Terror of Dawn goes in, I forgot how good that was, because I'll never pronounce his name correctly, but like Cal, I loved his storyline. Nesrin's point of view, did not ask, did not care. We didn't need it, I don't think. So for that reason I put it in, I forgot how good that was, but Cal's point of view, ate it up. Empire of Storms was sensational. Kingdom of Ash was literally life-changing. I always say about it, like, it was 1,000 pages and I wish it was longer. Like, it was just, by that point I was truly so connected to the characters in the series, which I hadn't felt before, but I really did fall in love with them throughout Kingdom of Ash. Okay, then another book in a series that we loved was The Right Move. The Right Move was literally life-changing. You guys know I didn't enjoy Mile High, but The Right Move, perfection, life-changing, made me like love. Loads of people have been commenting on my TikTok saying, would you recommend like skipping over Mile High and just going to The Right Move if you're starting the Windy City series? I would. Personally, I wouldn't be like don't read Mile High, because I know a lot of people love it. I just didn't enjoy it, so I would personally recommend skipping over it. Then A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, meh. Like I said, I just don't think I connect with like crime thriller books, and I didn't really connect with this one. I liked it a lot more than other thrillers I've read before, but I never think about it, to be honest. Chasing the Wild, oh my god, I would actually put Chasing the Wild in like I forgot how good this was. That book I kind of read like as a joke, like I was just in the mood for something silly, something smutty, and that's what I chose. It was like ex-boyfriend's dad, like country vibes. I think they lived in like a ranch in Montana, and she basically gets like snowed in with him. It was so good though, I literally ate it up. So that's one of those ones where I'm like, oh, I forget I read that and I forget how good it was. Then we have Wild Love by Elsie Silver. Not to be controversial, but this was meh, but like meh in the best way possible, because it's still Elsie Silver, so I'm still gonna love it in comparison to her other books. Meh. Do you know, this actually was maybe one of the best crime books I read this year, and this was The Murder After the Night Before. And this was one where I actually did connect to the characters and I did care about what happened. I would definitely put this in I forgot how good this was, because I really do like forget how good that was. Oh my god, okay, so we have another book for the burn pile, Credence by Penelope Douglas. Do I need to explain myself here? I feel like I don't. All I would say is probably don't read it. Speaking of crazy books, we started the Lord series. So the first book was The Ritual. Meh. I'll tolerate it, but like I wouldn't recommend probably. The Sinner, burn, or maybe that's like not angry, just disappointed, but more like just disappointed in myself for reading it. I honestly would say that book should be burned. Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. I think I forget how good that was, but no, I think I more just like forget it. It is a great book with great writing, and I think I would recommend it. It just didn't like do much for me is what I would say. One that was literally life-changing, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. This was a war love story, but so much more than a love story. I feel like saying it's a love story like diminishes it quite a lot, but there is a love story in it, but it really is about just like the horrors of war and hope and like starting over. Incredible, literally life-changing, would recommend it to everyone. Another literally life-changing one, Into the Dark by Magnolia Parks. I always call it that, Into the Dark by Magnolia Parks. Into the Dark, which is part of the Magnolia Park series by Jessa Hastings. I really didn't know how much I would like it because it is very grief focused, and I was like, is this going to be too sad for me? It was honestly too sad for me, but literally life-changing, and I've never stopped thinking about it since. Then we have the first book I read this year, which was Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Not angry, just disappointed. Like, I had very high hopes. There was not enough scenes of the main couple. It was far too chess focused, and it didn't land for me, unfortunately. Reckless, which I told you guys I wasn't super connected to the Powerless trilogy, but I really became connected to it when I read Reckless. I loved Reckless. It was more romance focused than action focused, which I know was like a criticism some people had of it. Maybe just because I'm a romance girly, I preferred that. So Reckless, I would say I forget how good that was because I really enjoyed it. The Serpents and the Wings of the Night. This actually is the reason I created this tier. I forget how good that was. Just a book that I like did not continue the series, and there's absolutely no reason why, because I loved it and I would love to figure out what happens here, but I just like forgot to keep reading it when really like I should be, because it was so good. When in Rome, sensational. I never talk about it, and you could say I forgot how good that was, but like no, I don't. I just don't really talk about it. Famous girl gets stuck in a small town. It was given like Looking Lorelei from Gilmore Girls. So good. Let's talk about some fan fiction. Isolation, a Dramini fan fiction. 100% sensational. The perfect combination of like toxic Draco and soft Draco. Draco Malfoy and the mortifying ordeal of falling in love or being in love, can't remember. I forgot how good that was. Breath Mints and Battle Scars. I forgot how good that was. On the Nature of Daylight. So sorry, but that is sensational. Another one that I actually forget I read this year is Iron Flame, which is the book after Fourth Wing. I would honestly put Iron Flame, and I forgot how good that was because I loved it when I read it. I just like constantly forget that I read it. I also forget that I read Fourth Wing. Loved them both. Lisa Jewell, None of This Is True. Once again, meh. Actually, I'm gonna put that one in not angry, just disappointed, because I actually thought the premise of that sounded so good, but like when I was reading it I was like, I don't care. I actually read the first Heartstopper book this year. I would say I forgot how good that was because I always forget I read that book, but couldn't stop smiling the entire time. Oh my god, The Real Deal is 100% one. The Real Deal was sensational, but I'm gonna put it in I forgot how good that was, because I like do forget how sensational it was. If you loved Dance Mums as a kid, you would eat this story up, because it literally follows girls who were child actors like going into a reunion for that, which literally happened this year for Dance Mums. It's absolute tea is all I'll say. It feels like you are watching that reality show unfold, but like you're getting the actual behind the scenes reality of it. Butcher and Blackbird was a 5-star, but I'm gonna put it in sensational because like obviously Butcher and Blackbird was not literally life-changing. It was a love story between two serial killers. What can I say? Okay, Corrupt by Penelope Douglas. I'm kind of a Penelope Douglas hater. I don't enjoy their books at all, but I thoroughly enjoyed Corrupt, and I will put that in I forgot how good that was. I also didn't expect it to be as good as it was either. Okay, The Secret Service of Tea and Treason. Not angry, just disappointed. It was my fault. I picked that book up. That's like, I think it's part of a series, or like in the middle of a series. So then when I was reading it and was confused the entire time, that was why. The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I actually got sent this and I was so excited and grateful to have been sent it, because I love Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo and I loved the premise of the book. I honestly should have DNF'd it. Not angry, just disappointed. It's not a terrible book. I just personally did not like it at all. The Housemaid, another one, another thriller that is just meh, but I definitely still recommend that one. Now we're down to the last two. Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. Definitely also meh. It was good. I'd recommend it. Like nothing at all on the Chestnut Spring series. It's too short, I think, to connect to. Last but not least, we have Divine Rivals. Divine Rivals is 100% I forgot how good that was. It's my exact type of book. I really enjoyed it. I think I just forget I read it, and I also have been scared to read the second book because I've heard very mixed reviews about it, or to be honest most of the reviews I've heard are pretty negative, so I've not thought about reading it. I really enjoyed the first one. It was really cute and really like cozy. I just loved reading it. So that actually concludes the tier ranking of every book I read in 2024. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next week for another video.